So it says, The Lord of the Rings of Power showrunner accuses critics of being patently evil, which is hyperbolic language in the extreme. I do love the idea that we live in a society now so sheltered that that's evil, that having negative things to say about something is evil.
At first, when I hear you're calling critics evil, I'm like, yes, you're calling professional critics evil because they are evil.
I actually I tried to, I was like, maybe I'll put detractors.
Yeah, it's not the critics, it's fans who happen to be disappointed with the product you gave them.
Wait, that's interesting. Critics get to just be critics when they say something nice.
And
so
when they do it, it's a noble effort, and it's artistic and awakened and enlightened.
So critics have to be nice, but get called critics. Fans say something mean, but get called evil.
Or trolls. Or bots, even.
So it says, if you remember in February, Amazon's Hatchet Men of Anthony, I'm not going to even try to pronounce the last name. It's like Bresnikan and Joanna Robinson derided Tolkien fans, describing them as troll. The two wrote, when Amazon released photos of its multicultural cast, even without character names or plot details, the studio endured a reflexive attack from trolls, the anonymous online kind. One thing that's missing here is, at the very least, when they did the Rava stuff, they tried to give examples, which were all very, very
the most
mild,
lukewarm takes that were critical of Moses Ingram's acting in the show, which was abysmal.
They never even tried to show evidence here. They just say it happened, and then it happened.
Yeah, and I haven't seen a single tweet about that. If I tried to look for it, I don't think I would be able to find evidence that this happened. But they preempted this before it happened just so that they could make comments like this to the press.
And then they trotted out Elijah Wood in the past cast for a literal
have mercy.
It's a literal struggle. It's not struggle.
They're wearing these shirts for the listeners on Spotify. They're wearing these shirts that have different ears of elf ears and human ears in different shades, in different skin tones.
If it was not Lord of the Rings, it would be raised fists.
Yeah. It says everyone is welcome here or something like that.
Yes, it says yes. You are all welcome here.
You're all welcome here.
It's absolutely absurd, and the idea that people are patently evil for having anything negative to say about anything when they get to be critical of everything that they don't like is hypocritical and stupid. I
don't want to misquote the guy. Let me just say what he told the Hollywood Reporter. He said, "What are they protecting? I don't see how people who are saying these things think that they're fighting for good. There's a line in episode 7 where Galadriel says every war is fought from without and within. Even if you're fighting for something you think is good, if you do something worse in that fight, then you become evil. I don't see how people who are saying these things think that they're fighting for good. It's patently evil." So I guess what he's saying is...
Saying what things, I say then?
The fight against a horrible addition to the Lord of the Rings franchise, which deviates from the lore and dishonors the original author. The fight against that is patently evil.
Does that make me evil, who is very critical of just about everything about the show, but the multicultural and diverse cast?
This guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. It makes just about as little sense as the dialogue in the show, which, as we know, is it feels like recycled, regurgitated, just mediocre versions of the dialogue that's in Lord of the Rings books.
Here's what I really see. It's the uninspired nature of the directing and the show running. And what I've come to the conclusion of, there are some franchises that are so important, whether it's Tolkien, even if you were to, in fact, say somebody like Harry Potter, which if they had not waited to make those movies after she died, what's another example of a very, very important literary work to be made into a movie if they were to do so?
50 Shades of Grey, right?
Okay, let's shoot for higher. Let's shoot for higher than that.
A series of books, you mean?
Yes.
Where they were dead or they weren't?
I'm saying if the author was dead, what's a series of
Girl
books?
with the Dragon Tattoo?
Okay, okay. So what I believe is that there's some franchises, some literary works that are so important that you should not be able to hire directors. They should be anointed. which means that what I mean is that there's certain directors that define a time and an era, and that there's certain directors that are so good that that's the only one that you could see.
That's what happened with those movies, in my opinion,
Yes.
with David Fincher.
Like,
Is that what happened to Peter Jackson?
no. I would say no. But like I said, now, with the corporate structure the way it is, we'll never have that again. So what I would say, in a perfect world, it's similar to, like, I know for a fact that they've said that Christopher Nolan would love to direct James Bond. He should be given that opportunity, but only if he's allowed to direct an entire arc with one actor, similar to what he did with Batman with Christian Bale.
I mean, by anointed, are you talking about some special permission that's provided by the author while they're still living?
The culture should decide that person is the director, and then they take up that.
You can't quantify that. What are you talking about?
I'm not saying that it's possible. I'm saying that's what should happen. That
How?
there should be one director, and I don't know who it would be for a show like this, because I don't think this show fits into that category.
The closest thing you can get to that is Peter Jackson directing the Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah, but
you can't get a consensus from everyone.
But this is not, and I'm not saying that there's only one option. I'm just saying that there should be some, that it should be boiled down to a small amount of talents.
You're talking about like the way that they cast movies now with John Krasinski. And,
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So the idea would be that it's a project so large, it's an undertaking so vast, and it's a project of such importance that only a director who's built up a portfolio of such great importance and work, that they would be given the opportunity and the reins to direct it, to produce it, not a bunch of nobodies who have never done anything before.
Yeah, I agree that they shouldn't have picked first-time showrunners. No. It's just like the fact that we can't get a consensus from fans or just casual viewers on who should be in charge of rebooting or making a spin-off or making a prequel, etc. It's only more evidence toward the argument that it should just be left alone. And that it actually is like the ethical thing to leave that intellectual property alone.
Yes, and that's kind of what I mean. I said, like, if you don't have the right director, if you don't have the right people in charge of it, and I don't think this is even possible anymore, given the top-down corporate structure in which these things are made, meaning that the corporation, Amazon, has all the power. They don't want to cede that control to a director with actual creative pull. Right? That's why Marvel hires a lot of first-time directors and people who have who don't have vast portfolios, because they're making the movie, not the director.
I thought it was because they wanted new ideas.
No, that's not a thing. But
I guess it's hard to argue that there should be no exceptions to that rule, because the Peter Jackson films are so loved, and I think the difference only is that those movies prompted more people to read the books than not.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I don't believe in any hard and fast rule, because, like, let's say it's a bad IP or an outdated IP. That is when you bring in somebody who has new ideas.
Yes.
And say, like, how do you turn this into something else? But when it's something like this, yeah, you put somebody in charge who's like, well, you know how to handle. And Peter Jackson proved that he knew how to do that. Wasn't there, I don't know if we talked about it when I was here, but he even said, like, I have personal disagreement with the politics of these books, but I'm going to put that aside and make what the people who love them want to see.
There would be none of that nuance today. And also it says here, the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power show is so boring that it keeps making an Amazon analyst fall asleep, which is a good example of just how things are going for the show. And I think that speaks to the directors not knowing how to direct action, not knowing how to pace what they're making.
It's so bad there. Like, the action's so bad.
Yes,
like,
it is. The armor looks like it was from Spirit Halloween. The dialogue
as we are all experts in now.
Yes, yeah, right.
It's so funny that, like, working in finance and advising shareholders means that you have to watch this show and take notes on it, and then report back. Is
there, like, one finance bro they went to college with who just happened to have, like, a Lord of the Rings poster in his dorm, and they're like, hire that guy to watch Lord of the Rings for us? So it says, we fell asleep during our first viewings of episodes 1, 3, and 4 and have not watched episode 5 yet due to a combination of not enjoying the first 4 episodes and a busy schedule. So, I mean, maybe they're not looking for people with busy schedules, but the guy's clearly not super invested in it. So if that's not bad, if that's not the type of analytics that they could be giving Amazon, he's like, look, the best review I can give you is that I don't give a crap about what you're making.
And we've already spoken about the fact that Rings of Power is the perfect background noise TV show, which is not a compliment. No. I mean, I guess if that's what you're aiming for, then fine. But then shouldn't it then just be an original story and not adding on, like tacking on to a franchise that already has excellent work?
They spent all the money so that they would have the buzz, but then now it's been nothing but smoke and mirrors since they started producing this, because I've heard nothing about ratings other than the strong hard, like the 25 million that they got right off the bat, and everything after that has been like, it's been the best at this time, at this hour, for this period of the day. It's been a bunch of like subcategorical records that don't actually mean anything.
Yeah, it's intentionally misleading.
If you take the broad view and you take 10 steps back, is anybody actually talking about it in a positive way? No.
People are talking about House of the Dragon, about Dahmer. What else?
That's really it.
That's pretty much all that's going on. She-Hulk is still being torn apart.
Andor, so what? Andor? Like, I like it.
He likes Andor.
Is it wildly popular? No. I mean, I doubt it.
It is surprisingly well received.
Oh, by the way,
is it kind of a Western? Would you call it a space Western?
I'd say it's more of a space thriller, more space Jason Bourne.
Does it feel like Star Wars?
Yes.
Which I want to go back to the first article, because I want to pull up. This is from the Lord of the Rings official Instagram page, where they say J.R.R. Tolkien created a world in which, by definition, is multicultural, a world in which free peoples from different races and cultures join together in fellowship to defeat the forces of evil. Rings of Power reflects that. Our world has never been all white. Fantasy has never been all white. Middle Earth is not all white. BIPOC belong in Middle Earth, and they are here to stay. The problem I have with that inherently is that there's no thought put into where they are, meaning that that's absolutely true, but there's no reason that all these groups that look vastly different would be part of one group. There was a shot early on where you're on one of the boats, and there's a white guy, there's a black guy, there's an Asian guy. I'm like, that wouldn't happen at this time because of how travel worked, how exploration worked. It's not a reflection of we don't want a reflection of the world we live in. This isn't happening at a time in the world we live in. I'm sick to death of the idea of things having to reflect back on us when we're looking to escape and watch somebody else, not ourselves. But that's actually not the point I was trying to make here. So they posted this, right? And they posted in solidarity with our cast. And then the first response is from Star Wars Andor, and it says, "From Middle Earth to a galaxy far, far away, hashtag you're all welcome here." And then the comment under that says, "Didn't you guys shrink Finn for the Chinese movie posters?" It's just proof that all of the power and motivation and excitement is coming from the blue check marks that are part of the establishment, not the actual people they want to reach while watching this stuff. It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, it's the same reason that they overrepresented Disa in the promotion for Rings of Power.
When she's barely
shown in the series.
Yes.
It's so disingenuous, and I feel like, wouldn't the woman playing Disa, I forget her real name, but wouldn't she, comparing the promotion to her actual screen time, feel grossed out by the fact that she's been tokenized?
I think that's a product of a different time and a different place. I literally do look now at Hollywood as a different country, a different world entirely. To a normal person, I feel like that might be true. To Hollywood, in a place where your image and your visibility is your capital and your currency, I don't think that bothers them.
Your visibility in marketing.
Yeah.
Images is more important than your visibility in actual screen time.
If it leads to more role, maybe she doesn't care about this role. Maybe because she came from Broadway, I believe. She came from the stage.
Most of them seem to have never been fans of Lord of the Rings.
So if she doesn't give a crap about the source material, if she doesn't give a crap about the production, she just sees it as a way to look, my agent is going to have a field day sharing this promotional material with everyone.
Morfydd Clark said that she traveled to New Zealand knowing that she was going to be in an Amazon show, but she had no idea what it was, what the pitch was, what character she was going to be, even after finding out that it was Lord of the Rings. She was just like, heck yeah, breakout role on an Amazon show.
And I think that's
and that's fair enough, but clearly no one involved cares about this
concept, the show.
Yeah, they don't care about where this comes from.
So I wonder if that's a product of an age we live in now where the actors are less about the craft and more about the message and the fame, right? So they don't care. They care about pushing their socio-political activism. I don't know if that's true of Clark, but I'm saying that seems to be a very common theme. And then the other one is that it raises their profile for more work onwards. So it's less about the material.
Even their interest in the socio issues is about raising their profile.
Yes, exactly. Like to buy that they all actually care. We did a segment yesterday about Me Too and Time's Up, and it's very little to do with the actual activism and a lot more to do with proximity to power and the advancement of your career.
I don't resent them wanting to advance their careers or get notoriety, have a breakout role, and even like build a platform for themselves if a certain message or political or social issue is particularly important to them. But I don't even think that the messages they're trying to spread in all of these interviews and this press junket nonsense, I don't think that those are close to their heart. I think that's something they've been told to say, or at least strongly suggested. Hey, it like would really help if you guys highlighted how this show is advancing inclusivity, and they're at least like tepidly in agreement with that.
I do have a bit of like, I would have to see the examples, right? Of like, I'm actually more open to the idea that beyond just bad reviews and review bombing, if you're getting these awful messages, then I encourage you to share those messages to show everybody the vile treatment you've been shown.
The actresses?
Whoever's getting it, to share those messages so that I can understand what's being said to you and properly say, I don't agree with that. But without sharing them, how do I know that's even real in an age where victimhood is currency?
Well, firstly, yes, victimhood is currency. Therefore, they're overblowing these allegations that they're getting review bombed, that they're getting cyberbullied. But even if those claims are true, it would not be helpful to post about it because you're giving more attention to the people who want attention from you.
They also act like it's an exclusive thing to them, as if it doesn't happen to everyone else
on the internet.
Yeah. Or to, it's like it's only one section of one demographic that receives it and one demographic that doesn't.
Like, I'm sure the guy playing Elrond is getting a lot of hate too.
So,
I just mean like even what we do.
They're giving attention to it just by covering it. Why not show the examples?
Because
expedient.
No, it's because it's expedient. But even if it's true that they're receiving a disproportionate amount of hate, even if it's like related to their immutable characteristics or their acting performance, then posting about it would make it way worse.
And sometimes it's not.
Right?
Sometimes it's the
you got to
writing
be
of the
fair
character,
to them, right?
And they're like, the writing of this character is terrible.
Yeah, you hate the character, so you're gonna like send hate to the person
Rose
that you
Tico.
see as
Terribly
that
written character, but it's like for some reason, if you don't like that character, you don't like Kelly Marie Tran. And it's like couldn't be further from the truth.
Like if the trolling is a real thing that's happening to them on a disproportionate level, posting about it would be stupid, Brett.
So instead, they just post about it in articles where they're sheltered from the response.
For expedient reasons, they can vaguely refer to it in interviews and victimize themselves. I totally agree that that's like what's going on.
Yeah,
but also, like, if it's true, posting about it would be unwise as well. You've got to admit that.
It would sway my opinion.
Do you screenshot pictures of the hate that you get sent on Instagram and then post it to your Instagram story?
No, I don't. But I also don't talk about it in.
It's going to promote
later.
more and more of it to
You're both making
get sent to you.
Now.
But I also wouldn't bring it. Like, it's also not something I'm going to bring up in an interview to promote my work.
Yeah, I think that both are true.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Also, I want to point out that there was this article that says Netflix reportedly pitched a $250 million Marvel-like approach to Lord of the Rings, but it freaked out the Tolkien estate. Were they freaked out by the fact that it was only $250 million and not just the $250 million that they got from Amazon? Let's find out together. Yeah, so it says, so Netflix found from The Hollywood Reporter that Wednesday the streaming giant pitched several ideas to the Tolkien estate, including a Gandalf show and an Aragorn series, characters who were played in the Lord of the Rings film trilogy by Ian McKellen and Viggo Mortensen, respectively. One source told The Hollywood Reporter that Netflix took a Marvel approach and that completely freaked out the estate. They reported that Netflix bid was $250 million for the rights. Well, that's just like, what are they lowballing for there? Are they running out of money? Did Cuties hurt them that badly? Are they short on funds?
Well, they did end up paying $250 million for the rights,
yes,
but then another $500 million for the actual budgeting.
So were they worried that then
production.
that they wouldn't give them another was the estate worried that they wouldn't give $750 million to the budget of the show and not do their elder justice? Is that what they're saying? Neither Netflix or the Tolkien estate immediately responded to request for comment. Another potential suitor was HBO, which already had a big budget fantasy franchise in Game of Thrones. They should have done that. Okay, they should have given it to HBO, just like with Amazon excelling at doing military and spy dramas. They should make HBO the home of fantasy. Because Amazon does a lot better with their Reacher, Jack Ryan season 1. God, no, not season 2, but Jack Ryan season 1. Terminalist Without Remorse was pretty bad, but in general, they're batting 500 here for their spy dramas. That's
better than most.
There was actually another one that I can't think of off the top of my head that was actually pretty good as well, but I'm not remembering it. Like, so like if Marvel does superheroes well, just because it's their source, it doesn't have anything to do with it being their source material anymore. It's a machine that makes movies that are good regardless of the not good, but they make those movies adequately because they're used to that type of production now. Right. They could take, theoretically, they could take an independent, they could take an IDW comic, they could take a DC comic and make a movie that looks like the movie they're making because the studio is designed to make movies like that. It would be cool to see HBO turn into a studio similar. Like, they're the place you go to find fantasy, whether that's over the top and sexually graphic fantasy or whether it's more lighthearted fantasy. It doesn't really matter because they excel at that genre. But that was never going to happen because Amazon just has gazillions of dollars. It's never going to happen. So.
HBO Max couldn't match their pitch to the estate.
Especially not after the sale from Warner Brothers Discovery went through.
Yeah.
The money wasn't there. They've been trying to cut funds. They were trying to cut $3 billion in assets before the end of the year. So,
but House of the Dragon is still outperforming.
Yes, it is.
Rings of Power, no matter how much money you spend on it, if it's not well used, then you won't be rewarded for such a risk.
Yeah, theoretically, they could have made it with less money and done better. But
theoretically, I mean, it's
a lot of people are saying that the sets for Rings of Power and the costuming is just low quality.
It's that armor, man. It really is awful. Like, they should have done.
I don't know that it's that bad. It's just that they're shooting it in a way where nothing is hidden.
Yeah, there's no shadows.
It's not shot properly for its color.
It does look like the armor should have a sheen to it that it simply doesn't have because there are no shadows bouncing off of it. And you're watching it and you're like, I'm literally waiting for it to crack like a kid's Halloween costume.
And it's so in focus. I mean,
you
want your shot to be in focus, but it's so sharp to where.
That's because of how much extra work goes into to any type of depth of field into animation shots like that. That's a whole nother department that they can't always afford to do. The most noticeable, I think, when they're on the boats. The boat scenes are like, if you're watching it on like a regular size TV, it's fine. But if you watch it on anything bigger, two of the hardest things to do in animation are fire and the rocking of boats, because that is such an absolutely, like, you can't really mimic that. So you can do that in live action photography, but then they have to mimic it on the water. Like, the water has to mimic and follow the motion of the boat, and that's very, very difficult to do. It's kind of like an uncanny valley thing where something's off, but you don't know why.
You're right about that. I didn't notice. They didn't even make an attempt at that.
It's
so funny.
When I was watching it, I couldn't even hear what they were saying because I'm like, the boat is
wasn't
driving
even
me
like
insane.
Noises of the boat moving.
No, there was just really crappy dialogue about the guy comes in and ruins it after she has her first halfway decent exchange with, whatever his name is. Character we don't know the name of because nobody in the show.
Halbrand or Elendil?
The son.
Isildur.
Isildur.
Yeah. The characters that have no names because nobody cares. That's what it is.
Isildur is like the least interesting character on that whole show. Actually, maybe his sister takes the cake for that, but him second.
The Critical Drinker made a really funny joke about it. I'm not gonna. It's actually fair, not vulgar, but it was a bit off brand for him. But it was good. So,
what do you guys think that they meant by a Marvel approach, though?
expanded universe, meaning like instead of this show, if they had done that with this show, this would have just been the Galadriel show, and it would have focused only on Galadriel and her journey, and not gone between Galadriel to the Harfoots to the.
Oh, but that would require them to actually know about the source material, and that's too much work.
But here's the thing: they could have done that with this, because arguably the biggest flaw of this show is they're bouncing around too much. For something that was really sad.
Even if you just got rid of one of the characters,
Yeah.
which I believe should be Bronwyn,
Nah,
or maybe like Arendir.
yeah, get rid of Arendir. Keep Bronwyn. Purely for the looks.
If you got rid of like one thing that you have to bounce around to, then it would be less overwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, we saw how much more in focus the last episode was, even if it didn't actually make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of the fact that you focused exclusively on the Numenorians and Bronwyn and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
them,
two stories collided.
There's there was another video that pointed out like, why is there only 3 buildings in all of the Southlands? It's like seems like the town should be bigger than that. Like that's stuff that I don't notice. Like I love that. We who is it that was here? Walked, run, don't run, walk, or don't walk, run. Was talking about like he loves to point out like to catch the flaws in like storytelling. I don't work that way. So if I notice it, it's bad, because a lot of atmosphere, good cinematography, and talented actors covers up a multitude of sins as far as like actual story structure and inconsistencies, which I've always found to be the more annoying of the things to complain about.
You like to catch the flaws in how they film it.
Yes,
Which they still have those flaws.
But that usually doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it. That's more that's the snobbish thing that I point out while we're watching it. It won't make it.
I mean,
less fun to
you're
watch.
more of the expert in that, but if I'm able to notice it and I'm uninitiated in those details, then something's really wrong.
Yeah. So to me, it's like they screw up because they could have covered up a multitude of these really, really bad story flaws with like a baseline of competent storytelling, meaning like the groups all look like they're from the same area, and halfway decent CGI or lighting might have gone a long way to covering up a lot of these flaws. But
And just get rid of the Dorg.
yeah,
That served no purpose.
the dogs,
Why was it even there?
Nobody knows. Nobody
It
knows.
served no purpose, and it looked terrible.
All right. Are you enjoying? We've been making Wesley watch the show just in case it's a day he's on.
Yeah.
Are you up to date on it?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Same as initial thoughts. Probably, I would say it still is keeping me on. Where I'm like, I'm gonna watch it still to see what happens. But it is. You said something after the first episode, which was like, if this was any other show, you would be slightly impressed. Like if it was Merlin Part 2. Like,
Oh
the
man,
level
if they
of
brought
production,
back Merlin, let's go. Katie McGrath's still around, right? She's like
Yeah.
a big Me Too person.
I know
Let's
that.
bring
But,
her
Yeah.
around. Right?
But if it was
We
one of
mentioned
those-
her yesterday.
I was like, is it the same Katie McGrath? That
It's
could
the
be
same one.
Okay, yeah, she's great in that show.
She
Like
is
bring.
great in that
I
show.
mean, William Hurt's sadly gone, so we can't have the
That
dragon.
John Hurt.
Did I say William Hurt?
Yeah, they're both gone. So
They're both
doesn't
gone.
matter. But there is something about it. It has that TV movie vibe, even though it has the money of a movie where it's like all of the extras are terrible. Every like cheering scene, and that pulls me out of it. Movies don't have that.
Yeah.
Movies don't have that. They have professionals, but this was a lot of like, as I said, they don't know how to film act. Like they know how. J.A. Bayona made the first episode, right? Like,
Yeah.
he knows how to make a movie. He has made good movies, but they undermine their actors by the way they shoot them. Where it's like, oh, I can tell that you're trying to hit a mark. Like it's awkward and weird, and the fight scenes, like Galadriel fighting.
And the dialogue is
guards.
designed to finish. Like when they make a statement, it's kind of like how Scandal used to do that when they would do their long monologues. It's designed to have an endpoint rather than sounding like an actual conversation.
Right. Yeah. It sounds written.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't. I don't know.
You know what they
man.
should do?
And the least offensive thing, as you said, is the cast. Like I literally have not been watching it thinking like I don't.
It's why these
That's not
articles annoy me, because there's more than enough to complain about that has nothing to do with racism.
And this is literally like the one time where I have not seen one person, as you said, especially somebody that is perceived to be on the other side, of the culture war, say that. They say like, oh yeah, you didn't care about that. Anyway, here's the problems with the show.
Yeah.
Like it's a footnote, if at best. It's not even comparable to John Boyega. I bring this up all the time. John Boyega, people, they were outraged that there was a black stormtrooper, and they wanted an explanation how there was one.
And the consensus there grew to be that his would have been the more interesting story to tell anyways.
Yes.
So,
yes. All the people are like, oh, you screwed over Finn. It's like, oh, you mean the character you hated from the get-go? It's like, no, I didn't hate him. I wanted to know why there was a black stormtrooper, because where we're from, we thought it was all cloned from one guy.
You know what they should do? The Daily Wire, which, by the way, you should sign up for the Daily. We didn't do that. We'll have to do that at the end.
I was just planning on doing that shout out at the end.
Okay, what they should do, I want the Daily Wire to raise like $600-700 million.
Easy. Right.
And then I want them to buy the rights to just Xena Warrior Princess and do this, but Xena Warrior Princess, and make it super
Can we
based.
just stop trying to purchase the rights to this, purchase the rights to that, and just come up with something of your own?
Yes.
Xena traditional housewife.
I'm half
Xena
kidding.
tradwife.
Yeah, but no, she's super trad, but then gets called to action because her husband dies, but he has to die heroically. Yeah. He can't die like a punk. Yeah. He has to
Sarah
die
Connor
in battle. Yeah. and then Gina Carano just goes on an adventure as Xena Warrior Princess.
She'd be a great Xena.
Yes.
I wanted to bring up the Daily Wire, in fact, because what was the word? Patently evil? Patently evil is when, I'm not going to call it the New York Times, I'm pretty sure it was them, but it may not have been, when they said, I loved this movie. And then they found out later that it was a Ben Shapiro production.
The
They're
Run,
this
Hide,
movie
Fight?
is Terror on the Prairie.
Oh,
They
yes.
didn't realize,
The
and they're
lady,
like,
she apologized. She's like,
Yeah.
It was I equated
and she
it
said
to.
that she felt assaulted to have liked
How
the
did
movie.
she
does.
watch it, though? It's
No.
only available
That-
exclusively from...
No, it was given to them in advance.
I equated it to
And she didn't know where it was from.
She did not know.
It was literally their version of gay panic. It was like conservative panic.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
That's funny.
That was a trope in the 80s and the 90s, right? That was the thing. She's like, "Oh my god." Oh my god, I can't believe I watched a conservative movie.
Yeah.
It
And
was-
liked it.
And
And
like
they-
I mean, even a lot of
she felt
conservatives
victimized by it.
didn't like Terror on the
Yeah.
Prairie, so...
I thought it wasn't about Terror on the Prairie. I thought they were talking about
So Terror on the Prairie was the one where they saw it and didn't know that they. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was one of them. There were two. There was one that they saw it and liked it, and once they found out who he was and who produced it, they didn't like it. The other one was they wrote a bad review and they said, I didn't even go into the theater.
That's the Terror on the Prairie one.
That's the Terror on
The
the
other
Prairie
one
one.
was, I think, Run, Hide, Fight, or the Hyperions.
Shut In.
Or Shut In. Yeah, it was one of those three.
Shut In is good. It's good.
Was which one was the one they purchased?
Shut In.
Shut In.
Yeah.
Run, Hide, Fight was the first one that
first one,
they bought the rights. Or no, did
They bought the rights to the story and produced it, and
Okay.
Shut In was already made, I believe.
Yeah.
I
So yeah, it's there's a lot they could do. You're right though. I mean, I'm half kidding when I make that suggestion. I don't want them to actually buy the rights to Xena Warrior Princess unless they get Hercules too and they bring back Kevin Sorbo, because that would be right on brand for conservative Inc.
Yeah.
Unless they're buying the rights to an original story that no one knows about, then I think I'm against it.
I say do it for the lulz. $650 million of lulz. Do it. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.